Hello, boys. We're going to go over some Necromancer builds today. So, I obviously do not have that many Necro builds on my channel. I don't have that many Amazon Assassins, so we'll get to those later. But when I have mentioned in the past that I do work on stuff, I just don't get some of the builds up to a comfortable level where I feel like I want to showcase them. Sometimes I feel like I'm like, yeah, it's good enough. I'll get it out there. Maybe I'm in the mood for it, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. I'll just throw out what I have done so far. But yeah, so I have only like about 2 or 3 Necromancer builds, but I have tested a whole bunch of them, but I'm quite undecided. Some of these I've binned, and then some of these I'm just undecided on, yeah, what I want to do next with them. There's still things I need to test, and I'm just like, ugh, I just get bored of it. So as a bit of a baseline, Necromancer is quite difficult to theorycraft. With the skill tree set up itself, it really does force us into one path or another. That is quite same with the Assassin and the Amazon tree, other than some of the other builds. So that's why you see more Sorceress, Barbarian, and Paladins. There's a lot more freedom of things to choose, and more elemental sources and different, unique ways to make a build function. But with these, you're more inclined to just guide down a certain route. So you've got an entire tree for curses, you've got an entire tree for summons. What are you going to do with the summons? Make something else with an Iron Golem? But yeah, pretty much you're kind of stuck to poison and bone skills, which is pretty much everything here that I can change. Now, you boys know I'm heavily bricked up when it comes to CTC skills, so let's start off with the few which I have done in the past. So, I've recently covered a Bone Spear Ranger. So this is a remaster of one I did a while ago, and yeah, it's pretty good. So we're using a brand bow. We're benefiting from a very similar setup to the Grim Ward Ranger, which I did, if you've seen my Barbarian build. So we're bolstering a bit of fire damage to complement our Corpus Explosion, and also to make benefit of having the Infinity as well, to complement Corpus Explosion and the brand Explosive Arrows. But also max synergies for Bone Spear. Bone Spear has a lot of synergies. It makes it difficult to maximize and also get enough summons here or there. I would recommend using a little bit of revives if you're doing something like this. It's probably one of the best off-meta builds I've come up with for the Necromancer. I would be more inclined to put this S tier, since there's not really much to compete with it. So I'll put it there for now. It might go to A tier. I feel like it's an A tier, but S tier because there's not many. Another one is Fire Trang set. So the Trang set does give us the O skill, which we can access Fireball and Firewall, also Meteor, and then Fire Mastery if we have the full set. So I've been playing around and testing what sort of range of the Trang set can we utilize and actually, kind of turn ourselves into a fire caster while we are inherently a summoner necro. It's okay. Again, with all of these necro builds, as soon as I start using Corpse Explosion, instantly they become viable, and it makes all of the theory crafting ideas and themes immediately trivial. So that's why a lot of these are really shelved inevitably. Fire Trangs is okay. We're mainly looking at Firewall. When we start using Meteor, that means we do need the Trang plate, which is a little bit inconvenient because we definitely want Enigma if we're using that amount of summons on this build. So it's predominantly Fireball and Firewall. It's okay. I'd put it as B tier as a whole, but inherently, it is a summon necro, which you could argue is S tier. So it is what it is. You boys can tell why I don't like necro as much. Poison Dagger. An infamous one. An absolute meme. It does work. You can get it to work. What I did utilize is the Plague in a Fanged Knife to use this. I know it's a little bit contradictory because 25% chance to cast level 15 Poison Nova. You're going to proc that Poison Nova, which is going to affect the damage that you're dealing on the actual Poison Dagger skill. But I found that to be okay. The freeze target is nice on there when attacking single target. The minus poison res, the deadly strike. You've got, lower res that procs. It's a great weapon, but also you're attacking so frequently enough that you can override the Poison Nova, but also Poison Nova only lasts for about less than a second, so, it's whatever, really. It's okay. I would put it in a C tier, probably close to a D tier. I'm more inclined to put it in the D tier, to be honest, in terms of the other builds we have on here. It's not that great. It's very boring in terms of single target. It's not something I enjoy testing. It's not something I would recommend, and that's probably why I haven't really made a build on it. But, maybe these are things I should cover in the future. I don't get that excited, and that's why a lot of these are blacked out. I've got a couple of werebear builds here, so let's cover one. One I have done in the past is the Bone Spear werebear, which is specifically using the Bone Hue. So that is the elite polearm that gives us 50% chance on striking to cast that. It is a very good physical damage base. It's got good leech. We have 2 sockets, so that benefits 2 shales in there to reach reasonable APS in werebear form, which is important. This is an outdated build. I could utilize this with things like a metamorph in a helm to switch cast bear, so then when we're in form we get Mark of the Bear to increase APS but also damage reduction. That's quite nice. You can choose if you want to use Fortitude for more physical damage front, chucking on max damage charms, etc. Or you could go the Bone route, which is the Bone armor. So I opted for going for more damage with Fortitude with this, I believe. But I have tested the other route as well. So the Bone armor gives you a smaller chance to cast lower level Bone Spears, but also to self-cast the Bone armor. The Bone armor is not as consistent to proc. It depends where you're farming. It looks nice on paper, but in reality, with this, it's much better complemented with Fortitude than with the Bone armor. You're attacking frequent enough, and you're much more better off prioritizing, Bone Hue, bolstering the damage of landing those hits, than relying on, just the Bone armor itself. It's not really going to proc much. What else do we have? Corpse Explosion God. A lot of these builds and the necro builds, as soon as you start using Corpse Explosion, as I said before, it becomes immediately trivial and immediately viable at the same time. So I wanted to make a build where I can really lean into Corpse Explosion. Corpse Explosion is half physical, so 50 physical and 50 fire damage. I've been playing around with a variation. I'm undecided on a few bits here or there, but it is max Corpse Explosion. It is also max minus fire resistances. So we're utilizing amp damage, infinity on the mercenary, and like minus facets and stuff on gear to absolutely destroy everything on the screen with Corpse Explosion. I haven't seen anyone else try and do this with bolstering the minus fire percent as well on Corpse Explosion. Just the amp damage, but that's enough. It seems to be enough. So, I hope to get that one out sometime soon. I'm just undecided on bits, and I'll probably be focused on season, so there's no guarantee, but, you can expect that one in the coming months, maybe. I don't know. We'll move on. Poison Nova werebear. This is one I like quite a lot. I would put it in A tier. I'm just very undecided because I want it. I do like this one quite a bit, and I want it to work very nicely before I make a video on it. Sometimes I'm weird and I get like that. Like I get I'm like, oh, this is a really fun idea, and I get really hooked on it, and I want to really fine tune it before I deal a video. Some other ones I'm like, oh, it's good enough, and I'll just throw it out there. And obviously, meme builds are the same, so like Inferno or Arctic Blast. But this is one which is in werebear form. It's utilizing Plague, so we're going to be proccing level 15 Poison Nova on hit. We can cast lower res from the Plague while we're in werebear form when struck, which is amazing because we can't cast it. And also, we don't need to put skill points all the way down the curse tree to get to lower res either. There's options here to hybridize with like a brand, which I'm messing with, but leaning into mainly, yeah, mainly a plague weapon and Dariel's helm just for more chance to cast level 15 poison over 2. It's pretty nice. But yeah, that's on the chopping block. It's getting there. It's getting there. Bit of workshopping. Bone Spear, Werebear plus Brand. Yeah. So 2 different options to make a Werebear Bone Spear Necro. The first one I did a while ago was with Bone Hue. Pretty good. More incentivized into more physical damage because it's a strong base. The other option is using Brand Runeword. So Brand Runeword, we can proc more consistent and slightly higher level Bone Spears, but we need to make it in a missile weapon. So we can make it in probably a Demon Crossbow as an option, also some type of bows, and that will allow a reasonable physical damage, not as high, but still good. There's nice physical damage mods on there. I think, is there Crushing Blow? I can't remember. Maybe Deadly Strike. But there's some stuff on there. There is, yeah, it's very similar in aspect to this one. There's option to build this slightly differently than that one. I would, at the moment, I would rate it a little bit higher, but still in B tier. So slightly better than Bone Hue. It really comes down to, like, are you using the Bone Runeword as your armor plate? Are you just going for max damage? Yeah, I don't know. The benefit that this one does have over the other is when you're attacking in werebear form, you can proc amp very consistently because it's over 30% chance when struck to cast it. So you have the full benefit of amplified damage without having to uncast the werebear form and then use the curse yourself actively. So that's really nice, and it's also a benefit of the Poison Nova werebear. So I'd probably put this above the Fire Trangs in terms of, you know, more cohesion, but yeah, that's in the works as well. Another weird one I have is a Dream Zeal Necro. So, yeah, a while back I was working with a Dual Dream Zeal Necro, stacking a whole butt ton of lightning damage charms. It can work. You can mess around with this and get rid of the Zeal and put in like a poison dagger and things like that, just to try and get the lower res to help a little bit more. But yeah, Dual Dream with Zeal, casting lower res ourselves, running around with like an Infinity Mercenary, still using Corpse Explosion. It can work. It's very expensive. It's very niche with the gear. I guess it's A tier. It's technically more consistent than some of the other ones, like Bone Spear Werebear with Brand, but yeah, I don't know if I want to cover it. I don't know, I just don't feel right about it. It's weird. It's still okay, though. And the last one we have on the list, being a bit of a shorter list for Necro, is the classic Oath and Bone Armor melee variant. So I always hear this one in off-meta discussions with Necromancers. It's not very exciting. It's very underwhelming. So when using the Oath runeword, you can make it in an indestructible base, which is cool. You've got, like, I think 35% chance to cast a reasonable level Bone Spirit. You need a significant amount of synergies to increase that, but you can start putting in synergies first into Bone Armor, that are more coincide with Bone Armor, so like Bone Wall and, Bone Prison first, which is decent. You can also use the Bone Armor here to have a little bit of Bone Spears proccing too, although inconsistent, and you can cast your own armor through this as well. If you're using Werebear, I would say you're more inclined to use the Bone Armor. If you're not, if you're just running around with the Oath Runeword and maybe teleporting, then I would suggest you could use that or Fortitude. It's quite underwhelming. You don't really even get to see the Bone Spirits because you're right in front of the mob. If you hit them here, the Bone Spirit casts and then immediately contacts and disappears and deals damage. So it doesn't seem like you're doing much. As soon as you add Corpse Explosion to this, it makes everything else you're doing immediately irrelevant. I'd put it in B tier. I would put it below the Bone Spear, Werebear, and Brand. And I feel like I'm even inclined to put Fire Trangs down and this the other Bone Spear Werebear down with melee down here. It's just the fact that you don't have amp damage or curse access. If we could do amp damage on struck here as well as, you know, utilize the brand, then it would be higher. But yeah, brand werebear would be higher in that case. That's it for my necro builds, to be honest. I know most of them I haven't really covered, but hopefully my explanation satisfies some of you. If there's some of these that you really want me to cover and see, then please do let me know. Like, if you guys are really keen on seeing one of these ugly builds, then I could do that, I suppose. You know, if the boys want to see it, then I'll comply. But yeah, that's it for Necro. If you want to try out a few of these builds, you're welcome to join the Discord server, and I can share some of those there with you. Without anything else left to share, we'll finish it there, and I'll move on to maybe another tier list next week or so. See you, boys.